Hello and welcome to another social media for your boring business. Let me turn on my do not disturb here. All right, today I'm going to be joined by Renee. Let me see if I can find her.
Hi,
All right, it
how are
worked.
you? Yay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Awesome. All right, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. But since we are both hosts, I can't see comments that people leave on your side. And so if anybody leaves any questions, just be sure to grab them so that we can answer them here. And other than that, so welcome everybody. My name is Jen. This is Social Media for Your Boring Business, where we talk about like all things business. And I'm super excited to have Renee here with me today, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, who you work with, that sort of thing.
Awesome, I'd love to. And thanks so much for having me. This is my very first time doing any kind of co-live like this for TikTok, and
Yay.
probably only my fourth live ever. So thank
Yeah.
you in advance for the grace. My name is Renee Vidor, and I am an author, speaker, coach. And what I really love to do is create community. So I empower those typically in the faith community who are looking to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually. So that is what I do on a typical basis. And I do a lot of speaking on the topic of comparison. My book is called Measuring Up: How to Win in a World of Comparison. So I teach people how to use comparison to their benefit instead of their detriment.
Interesting. I really like that. And I mean, I think that comparison um, obviously everybody deals with it, but especially like in the realm of business, because there's really no like you're never going to be the only person doing something. There's always usually somebody else doing the same thing, and you have that little voice inside your head that's comparing yourself. And then on social media, like that is kind of one of the detriments of social media is that we see everybody's best life, and it just sometimes makes us not feel that great about ourselves. So I'm really excited to get into this topic. And I would love to start with kind of like how you came upon this journey of speaking about comparison, like what kind of brought you here?
Absolutely. I'm still, I'd say, a recovering comparaholic. I was somebody who struggled big time in my 20s and into my 30s with looking at other people and thinking, wow, they've got it all together. So what's wrong with me? I can never win. I can never measure up. And this hit an all-time low when I went through a really hard time back in 2012. And during that time, I recognized the need for some personal development and started down that
Yeah.
road and realized, oh my goodness, I'm judging other people, I'm looking at other people, and I'm not living my life. This is
Yeah.
not cool. So going through some of that personal development, coaching, counseling, I mean, you name it. I've been through certifications that I now run for my clients. And I realized I am somebody who needs to talk about this message because I've been there. And I'll give you something that is for some people TMI, but I think you're cool with it, Jen. We didn't talk about this in advance, but I struggled with breast implant illness and I didn't know it. I had breast implants for 9 years. And when I was 36, I was told, "Oh, you're very healthy and all of this, but you have all these symptoms. It must either be in your head or you are just getting older." And I knew
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. So when I found out what was going on, I realized I actually have to have them removed in order to get better. My health was
Mhm.
so bad, I couldn't speak on stages anymore, could barely talk to my teenage daughter because words wouldn't come out. It was hard. So, with that, and having to go through, and this is when my book was being published, I realized, all right, this was 9 years ago that I felt I needed that to change
Yeah.
my body. And now, is what I just wrote going to be legit? Is it going to work? Is it going to be something that I
Oh no.
like?
Oh, there you are.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there. What if it doesn't work? What if I end up being like still a alcoholic? But the truth is, everything that I taught did work. And that really gave me even further confidence to know that even without, anything extra, I'm okay. I am who
Yeah.
I am. I'm created to be. And it's exciting to be able to be in that place, especially when it comes to marketing and business.
I love that. And if you're here listening, be sure and double tap the screen when you give us those hearts. It actually helps this content in this video get in front of more people. So if you're enjoying this, that will help more people see this conversation that you're enjoying so much. And feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat, and we're happy to answer them for you. So I think that that's crazy that you went through that, and it's so sad that like as women a lot of times we're kind of brushed aside of what's happening to us in our bodies, and I'm glad that you were able to figure that out on your own and start getting better. But I also think it's so interesting that you were then nervous, like this whole framework that you had put out there is like is this actually real, like, and so it's almost like that had to happen so that you could like remind yourself of this is what it's about, is just kind of like being
Imposter syndrome,
myself.
right?
Yeah.
We all go through it, and I think that's important. And with what you teach and what you show people, it's we have to be able to get beyond it and know that everybody else is experiencing it in some way as well.
Yeah. And someone asked, was it like from the silicone illness?
To be very, and you're welcome to like reach out, DM me for questions or anything like that. I'm an open book. But if you look up breast implant illness, it actually isn't just a silicone. It can be anything because your body is rejecting it
Yeah.
in those
Having
cases.
something inside you.
Yeah.
So crazy. So one thing that I wanted to ask, and I'm looking away because I can't remember what it was, but I know it was really good. Oh, so I saw your video about one of your pinned videos is about this illness that you had, and you said not to compare yourself to yourself. And as so I'm a CrossFit athlete, and that's actually the only person I do compare myself to is like my results, like time over time. Although, one thing I was working with a nutrition coach, and one thing that she always reminded me was like, you're a different person than you were, 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Especially all of us went through COVID together. And of course, we all came out a different person as we were previously. But, as a mom, like you're a different person when you're pregnant than when your kids are 5, than when your kids are 10. And so I just thought that was a really interesting thought because, like I said, as an athlete, I'm constantly comparing myself to myself. And so it was interesting to see that. I'm like, wait, what? What?
And we're taught that. I don't mean to like demonize that or anything because we have to
Yeah.
come up with our own language for ourselves too. So if it works for you, awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I found was that when I was working with clients who were comparing themselves to their self in their
Yeah.
past, they're like, "Hey, I want to get back to this shape.
Yeah.
I want to do this the way I was able to." Oftentimes, like you said, we are not the same person. And either we've grown and sometimes we've even backslid a little bit. And it's okay to be the person you
Mhm.
are right now because you are always completely growing. And every 7 years, you actually have new cells. So you're a new
Yeah.
person every
Yeah.
7 years. But when it comes to using comparison to your benefit, find the language that works best for you. Many people
Hmm.
that I talk to comparing themselves to themselves, they are actually then they're in competition with themselves. And if we're in competition with ourselves, that can be a lot of head drama because
Yeah.
we don't have realistic goals. We don't know how far we can go. We only know
Hmm.
what we've done in the past. So what I find myself doing is comparing myself to really who I was created to be. What is my DNA makeup? What am I capable of doing? And when I love fitness and things, CrossFit is not my thing because just some physical stuff, but I love all of that. And you're able to look and be like, hey, this is what I've done before. I know I've done it well. But if for some reason you have an injury and you can't do that again, it doesn't change your identity. And
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. Use comparison the way it was intended. I believe it was given to us for a reason. It's
Hmm.
because we can use it for our benefit. But as soon as it starts to get detrimental in our mind, for instance, okay, well, now that I have this injury, I'm never going to be able to do that again, which means I'm never going to be as good as a CrossFitter or as good of a person, whatever. Those times we need to stop and think. And I have something called the WIN method and go through those 3 thoughts. And you'll be able to come out on the other side and realize, okay, is it my identity that I'm challenging? Because if it is, I need to do some mindset work. If it's
Yeah.
just the fact of those facts, then we're using comparison in a great way.
Okay, I really love that you're like, comparison is okay when it's used the right way. So, how do you know that you're using it for your advantage versus for your disadvantage?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will respond this way with the win method. And there's plenty of different ways to talk about it. It's very simple. But W, like if you want to win in a world of comparison, knowing that comparison will always be there, you cannot get rid of it. And if you
Yeah.
try to, it'd be a really boring world. Can you imagine if all of us were exactly the same because
Yeah,
we
no.
never expressed
The
ourselves?
contrast is what makes it exciting.
Yes, exactly. And it's where we have innovation, we have electricity and all of that, right? So
Yeah.
when you're using it, think of if you want to win the W is weigh the cost. When you notice that feeling, and we all have it, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you have this feeling, and it's comparison, sometimes it's competition, is the word you'll use. When it feels kind of like, ooh, I feel threatened or I feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable, all those little weird
Yeah.
feelings, recognize it, stop, weigh the cost. What is that feeling costing you right now? Is it keeping you from doing something? Is it making you act a different way than who you really are? Is it making you put on a mask? Is it making you kind of walk away from a situation and have avoidance patterns? Whatever it's doing, if it's doing something negative, is it worth that? Is it worth it to you? Are you
Yeah.
willing to stay there? And if you say no, then go to the I. If you say yes, then you're going to be stuck in this and that it is what it is. So if
Yeah.
you don't want to and you want to win, then go to the I, and that's innovate your identity. Innovating your identity is when you look at who you were actually created to be instead of who everyone tells you you should be, instead of the labels that you've claimed, good or bad. Your
Hmm.
identity is something that nobody can ever take away from you. In other words, your roles are not your identity. Your being a mom is not your identity because
Hmm.
unfortunately that can change. I mean, once a mom, always a mom, but you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
don't confuse that, but innovate your identity. Know in advance. Know now. Start really digging in deep. And those of us have been in business for a while, many of us have done this. We're like, okay, our brand, we have to really like look at, is our brand our identity? If it is, then we're gonna, if our brand is all of a sudden in trouble, then we're in trouble as a person. We have
Yeah.
to separate those. So
Yeah.
start doing that work, that identity work, and then compare yourself to who your innovated identity is, not to who you were 20 years ago because you might have gained some weight, right? Oh well, but who your real identity is. And if it's in essence what you're dealing with, that W, that weigh your cost, and it was like, this is the issue you're dealing with in comparison right now. If it is in alignment with your identity, then you might need to just give into it and say, okay, this is something that is okay right now. Now, if it's something that's not in alignment, in other words, if I'm comparing myself to you, Jen, and saying, oh my gosh, I wish I had her tan because I can't tan. I'm a redhead. And so, wow, I don't want to be next to her because then I don't look good. If
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing going on, then I need to realize, wait a minute, if I'm not willing to be next to Jen on TikTok, then that means that I'm actually missing out on serving my audience. Ouch.
Hmm.
That's not who I am. I'm a servant. So now that I know my identity, I compare myself to my identity, then go to the navigate your journey, the N. Navigating your journey means that you do whatever you need to right now to take the right path for this comparison decision. My path right now is I'm fine with being next to Jen because I choose to serve my audience. I'm going to go the
Hmm.
route of focusing on my audience instead of on myself. That's navigating my journey. There was a time where I wasn't in a healthy place to do that. Navigating my journey meant that I actually needed to not be around people in certain ways because I got really messed up in the head. I had to
Yeah.
stop following certain people on Instagram, wasn't on
Yeah.
TikTok yet. So navigate your journey the way that goes for you. But WIN, when you go through that 3-step process, not just for comparison, by the way, it works for a lot of things, you're going
Yeah.
to be able to win at your life and be you, who you were created to be.
I love that. And if you guys are loving this conversation as much as I am, please be sure and double tap the screen. That helps the video get in front of more of the right people who are going to love it as well. Okay, there's a couple of things that you touched there. First of all, I went to the beach this weekend and I have a light on me. So that's why I'm so
I do too.
red looking. But I really love it. So I know that a lot of your content is through, like you said, it's faith guided and through Christianity. And a lot of things that I follow are more spiritual, but it's the same exact message of changing your thoughts, like changing your thoughts to a better feeling thought, because that helps you get into a better place to be yourself. Like when you're stuck in that position of feeling really icky about whatever it is that you're thinking, which is, like you said, in comparison, that isn't a good place to be anything from. It's not a good place to be yourself from. It's not a good place to be a business owner. Not a good place to be a mom. Not a good place to be a friend. It doesn't make you feel good. And so I really, really love that, and totally it resonates with the stuff I was listening to this morning about how to make yourself just kind of like live the life that you want to live. And that's really where it starts, is how you feel. And so I think that's really beautiful. I love that so much.
Yeah, I believe Brene Brown just came out with a new book as well, and I hear chapter 2 is about comparison. So I just got it on
Really?
audio, and I'll be listening to that because there's always more that we can learn, and there's
Yeah.
always, like I said, your language, how it's going to
Yeah,
work for
exactly.
you, because we're
Mhm.
unique. Each of us are unique.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that I think that you touched on that's really important for everybody is not like navigating what you need right now. And many times on social media especially, have chosen to unfollow people,
Yeah,
and not because I don't like them, but
right.
because the message wasn't making me feel good. And whether it was like, and it has nothing to do with them, right? Like it's not
Exactly.
ever anybody else's issue. It's your issue. But we also need to do that for ourselves and not consume content that doesn't make us feel good, regardless of what it is, even if it's something that inherently isn't bad, but it's giving us that feeling of like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I'm comparing myself to that. And that's such a real thing. I've definitely gone through that. So I think that that's really great. I love that. That is great. Beautiful framework.
Is that something I would have to ask you what your thoughts are? I've personally found that there are times where I have to stretch myself, where I know that, being you and I met in a community as well. And
Hmm.
there are times where I'm in a community, I realize, wow, I'm either out of my league or I'm learning so much. What do I have to contribute? But
Hmm.
those are times where I personally believe that's a good place to be. That little bit of tension and discomfort
Yeah.
is what allows for growth. When a
Yeah.
plant is pruned, that's when it's going to bear the most fruit. So I just wanted
Hmm.
to like come back with like I know that I'm saying one at one side of my mouth it sounds like I'm saying like well run away from anything, but I don't really believe that's right at every season. I think there are times where we need to be in that, and just then it's time for us to take control over that, so that we can go ahead and it's. I don't really believe that comparison is a thief of joy. I believe that we hand it over. We believe
Yeah.
like, we're the ones that are giving it its power, and so how much
Exactly.
power do you want to give it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that what you said was starting with weighing it in, and then I think you have it in the right order, right? Because if you're weighing the cost of you doing this and you're figuring out your identity, and so you're changing your thoughts and how you're looking at this and who you are in this situation, there are definitely times where you can be in a situation like you mentioned where it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's like a good uncomfortable. And then there's times where maybe it's just not good for you. I mean, I even, as much as I love, so Renee and I are both a part of the Social Click, and I love the Social Click for the community. But I actually had to take a month off at one point because it wasn't healthy for me to be in it at that point, and I had to leave. And it wasn't because the group is bad, and I'm back in it, and I love it, and it's exactly what I need right now. But I think that that's kind of what it is like figuring out what, I mean, there's been people that I have had to hide from social media,
Mhm.
and then once I got to a better place, I'm able to unhide them because I love them and I want to support them. But there were just times in my life where supporting them was doing something to me that I didn't like. And so I had to like remove that for myself. And then, you get in a better place and you get in a better mindset and you're like, or maybe it also evolves at the same time, right? So something changes and you can again start to bring it back into your life.
I love the fact that you notice that about yourself because so many people just demonize themselves and just continue going through it. And when we aren't that self-aware, like building that self-awareness is what's so important. And you
Hmm.
basically did that. You weighed the cost. What is it costing me right now to stay in this group at this moment? Well,
Yeah.
it's mentally not good for me right now. And then your identity, you didn't allow your identity to get wrapped up and feel like, okay, well, you're not good enough to be there. No, it's just right now, it's not best for me. And that's
Hmm.
who I am. And then you navigated your journey. So really going through that process, however you call it, is something that we really need to capture that thought and take it captive and train it to do what is best for us and what's going to be best.
Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship is a whole journey of mindset and self-awareness, right?
Oh my gosh, in every
My
way.
husband, my husband's like pretty new on the journey, and sometimes I'm in like I know this because I've been on this journey for 5 years, which isn't an insane amount of time, but it's long enough to where like if at the beginning you ride it so much as your identity, and that's
Yeah.
so hard to ride a business as your identity because business is up and down. It's just the way it goes. And when you get your identity wrapped up in it, it just feels really icky anytime like anything potentially doesn't go exactly the way that it should, and that takes a lot of work. And so I think that a community like yours is probably so incredibly helpful for people who are, learning their way and navigating their way through that time because that is very, very tough.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And finding, I like what you said earlier about you are the one that took people and hid them. We need to remember from our space as well that other people, they have their own journey. And there are
Hmm.
times where they're going to hide us. And
Yeah.
just because we don't have all the eyes on us that maybe we once had, or because we're not making the same impact with a certain either customer, client, audience, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a reflection on us. It can be them and their journey. So, not getting caught up in those metrics or even in those individuals in our
Yeah.
lives and knowing that, hey, let them, like, don't judge them either. We don't want to be
Yeah.
judged. So, let's not judge them. Let's allow them to go through the journey they need to.
Hmm.
So,
Or
that's a
like
good point.
unsubscribing. I hear so many people say this, like where they'll watch their subscriber list, like their email subscriber list, right? And they're like, "Oh, so and so unsubscribed from my email." And I've had people that I personally know unsubscribe from my email, and like there's all different reasons that people unsubscribe from emails. Like some people just like really like a clean inbox, and so
Yeah.
they unsubscribe from anything, and it's not personal unless it's like completely serving them at that moment. But and then people unsubscribe because maybe it triggered them, or maybe it just isn't what they need right now, or maybe they don't like getting so many emails from you. There's literally like a million reasons why people unsubscribe from emails. Me personally, I've never unsubscribed from email, been like, I hate this person, like unsubscribe. It's
Never.
just like,
No.
I'm not even opening these. I don't need these right now. This isn't what I want, or whatever. And it just like, it's just that's one of the things that I know so many business owners watch really closely is like who's subscribing and unsubscribing to their email, and that's so harmful. It's
It
like
is.
whatever, it doesn't matter. Just keep it open for the people that are subscribing. Show up, like you said, show up for the audience and the people that are still following you, that are still interested, that are subscribing, that are seeing your content, that are engaging with it, and trust that the right people are going to see it whenever they need to see it. Because sometimes it's not the right time either. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can't hear the message yet.
Yeah, you got to plant those seeds and just keep putting that information out there and not allowing
Hmm.
that to pull away from what you're doing. Because as soon as I really, I do not like to watch subscriber lists. I even people say, "How's your book doing?" I honestly do not go and look. I have no idea because
Yeah.
that's not where my heart is. That's not who I am. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not the person to follow when it comes to like business advice on stuff like that because I don't watch my numbers the way that I should, and that is
Yeah.
important. So I'm not
From a
detracting from that.
marketing standpoint.
Yes, but from a personal standpoint, it's just not healthy, and it's not
Yeah.
something that we should be identifying with.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. It's the same thing as like whenever I first started managing social media, I would like obsessively check engagement to where it was taking over my life. And
Mhm.
like, it's just unnecessary. You don't need to look at it every single hour. Like, you can look at it every week, and that gives you a much bigger picture of what's actually happening, or every month, just depending on, what it is that you're doing. But being a little bit more intentional. Right now, I am tracking my audience growth
Yeah.
based on something that Rachel said, which is really interesting, actually. It's actually incredibly intriguing to track your audience growth because, and like, I can see that the growth is where I put my energy, really, but it like surprises me. But unless you're intentionally doing something like that, you don't need to like obsessively look at your numbers every day, I don't think.
And that's a good point, is using that comparison to benefit you for your advantage, because
Exactly.
obviously numbers do give us data and we need that data in order to grow. And there are times where those numbers are going to give us something that makes a lot of sense. And when it doesn't make sense, let's not sit there and ruminate over it. But
Yeah.
using it for growth is a way to use comparison to our benefit.
Yes, that's so good. I love that so much. So, okay, I had some questions for you, and our time's almost up, so we don't even really need to. I think that we've kind of talked about a lot of them, but I think you talked a little bit too about how we can overcome it. So I feel like we went over everything. So what I'd like to do is move to my fun questions, which one of them is like, what piece of content are you consuming right now that you absolutely love? So it can be like a podcast, a book, a show, like anything.
Oh, that's so funny, because I am someone who like does not watch any shows. I don't like, I just don't do TV, things like that. I'm normally doing a book, and I just finished one I had read, and so now I'm just getting into Brene Brown. So, what was another one? Rachel had mentioned Obvious Adams, and that's a really short, easy one. But I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
was really good. So I'm one who just kind of goes from book to book, typically an audiobook because of
Okay.
ADHD,
Yeah.
and it's just easier to remember and to click it in. But yeah, I do enjoy podcasts, but I don't have one that I just listen to all the time. I bop around quite a bit.
Have you read The Gift of Imperfection by Brene Brown? I love
Yes,
that book so much.
yes, so good. I read that as part of one of the research of what I was doing before I wrote my book a few years back.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, I really love Brene Brown. I
She's so
haven't
great.
read anything from her in a while, but I just love the way that she talks, and I love that she comes from like a data standpoint, but also just like such an empath standpoint. Like, I don't know, like her
She's so
whole
good.
everything about her is just so cool.
She's in her space. Like
Yeah.
yeah, she does such a great job. Brene Brown. I'd love to meet her at some point. In fact, I should just write that on my bucket list. Why not?
Yes. Do you know that I in 2021 it was like it was the December before I joined the clique. I was doing this yearly like thing or whatever, like where you like write out your goals and stuff. And one of them was like, who do you want to meet? And I put Rachel Peterson, and then I met her that year. I was like, oh, that was
That is so cool.
fast.
Yeah,
I
Rachel and I
know.
met back in, I think, 2018, where we were both speaking at a conference, and
Oh,
she was
that's
one
so
of the
cool.
keynotes. And yeah, like yeah, she's always one of those people that needs to be on the list to meet, because she's the real deal.
Rachel,
Yes, Rachel.
I agree. Very, very good. Okay, so tell people like again the name of your book and where they can find it, how they can join your community, where they should be following you, that sort of thing.
Yes, you can go find Measuring Up: How to Win in a World of Comparison on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com, wherever books are sold. And as far as my community goes, you can always go to reneevidor.com. It's actually right now getting everything switched over under construction. So I don't even know what's there because I'm not doing it myself. But you should be able to find information there for the Winner Circle community, which that particular one is a faith-based community. And always welcome to follow me. I do faith-based, secular, whatever, all over TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. Love LinkedIn as well.
You do. That's awesome. Yeah, and actually, I saw the link for the Winner Circle on her Instagram, so I know that that is one place that you can find it. And I believe that your handle is the same on Facebook. I mean, on TikTok and Instagram.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much. This conversation was super awesome. I loved it. I thought it was it aligned with everything that I've been doing recently. So I'm so glad that we got to connect. And be sure and join me on TikTok every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Central Time, which is about 30 minutes before this time, where I talk to business owners and marketers about how to really thrive in your business. And thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you, Jen. It was great to talk with you. I appreciate you.
You too. All right, bye.